Hello everyone, and welcome to another Construction Online training video. I'm Alex, and in this video we will be covering project tracking reports. There are three ways to access the project tracking reports. The first is through the company overview. Once you're in the company overview, navigate to project tracking, and then project tracking reports. The second is through the company reporting feature as part of the TrueVision Intelligence module. This can be found in your left sidebar. Here, click Project Tracking Reports. The last way is in a project itself. Navigate to a project, then to Project Tracking, and finally Project Tracking Reports. In all three locations, the reports are the same, with one exception. The exception is the to-do list report. In all three locations, the reports are the same. The exception is the to-do list report. In the company reporting, as well as the project tracking reports in the company overview, the to-do list report gives you the option to select all projects and company to-dos. In company reporting, as well as the company overview project tracking reports, you can choose to select all projects or company to-dos you can choose to select all projects or company to-dos as the selected project when running the report. In the project tracking reports within a project, only individual projects are available to be selected. Let's go through some of our reports. We can toggle through the different features in the top right corner. First, we have our daily log reports. We have our combined log report, which includes all log types. We also have all of our log types separated out into individual reports. There's also a material totals report available. When we go to create our combined log report, first select our project. By default, the project we are in is chosen. Then select a date range. By default, the project that we are in is chosen. We can next select a date range, whether from the presets or a custom range. We then have the option to filter the report either by who created the log or and or who is the related contact on the log. For the combined log report specifically, we have the option to show. For the combined log report specifically, we can choose which log types are shown in the report. We also have several other options on the right side. We can choose whether or not to show weather tracking. This weather tracking is different from an observed weather log. The first option is whether or not to show weather tracking. This is different from the observed weather log. The weather tracking is the automatic weather reports that are logged daily if you have that turned on for your daily logs. Next, we can choose whether to print each day on a separate page. We can choose whether or not to include our attachment previews. These will be photo thumbnails for each log. We can choose whether or not to hide sections with no log entries, and choose whether or not to include cost codes. Our other specific log reports will have similar options in the report options section. Next, our to-do list. Next, our to-do report. First, we can choose which project, and again, the default is the project we are in. Then we can choose a date range specified by due date or completed date. And next, we can go to our to-do list options. Here we can choose whether or not to include completed to-dos, choose whether or not Here, we can choose whether or not to include completed to-dos, choose how we're ordering our to-dos, and choose whether we're including to-dos with specified resources. We can also choose which filters. We can also choose to filter our to-do list by the specified fields. Next, our punch list and checklist reports. These reports function identically, but pull from the different features. In the punch list or checklist report, we can choose which project to print for, which punch list or checklist, the order that the punch lists or checklists are listed on the page, and then we can filter by resource, item priority, item status, room or location, or trade. We can choose whether or not to include completed or incompleted items, as well as if we include completed issues, incomplete issues, or issues at all. Finally, we can choose whether or not to include blank signature lines, or if digital signatures have been provided, whether or not to include them. The item issue report for punch lists and checklists is specifically for item issues within those lists. Again, we can choose which project, which lists, and which filters. Specific item issue print options include whether or not we're showing completed issues, responsible resources, due dates, and so on. Like with the main punch list and checklist reports, we can choose whether to include digital signatures or blank signature lines. Our last report is the work order report. In this report, we need to choose a related resource or who we are printing the work order for. You can also choose a project and a date range. Here, in addition to our project tracking features such as checklists, punch lists, and to-dos, we can also choose to include calendar events or scheduled tasks. We can choose whether or not to include completed items and tasks. In all of our reports, we'll have an option to choose our header or footer, and in several of them, we can choose whether or not to include our default text. These options are included at the tabs at the top. Once we've generated a report, we have a few options at the top right. We can choose to share our report by email. We can choose to save our report to ConstructionOnline. We can choose to download our report to the computer. We can choose to edit our report in our word processor, or we can choose to print our report to our local computer or to a PDF. That covers project tracking reports in ConstructionOnline. Thanks for watching. Check out our other videos or our knowledge base to learn more about project tracking.